Hello there and welcome back to another Thunderous Productions tutorial. I'm the madman behind the mic, Jag Thunder, and this is Minecraft. And welcome back everybody to another one of my fun-filled tutorials. This one is going to be on McEdit, how to get it, and a lot of the basic functionalities of the software. So first you need to go to this website right here, mcedit.net, and download your version. As of right now, the latest release is 0.1.7, and that was back in May, so this has not been updated for a while, but it does still work. This is where you'll get your version. I will be covering the Windows version of it, and there's a 32-bit and a 64-bit. Figure out which bit that you're running and download that. If you're not sure, just download the 32-bit and that will work just fine. Alright, once you download it, you will get a folder, and actually you will get a zip file just like this. You'll need WinRAR or WinZip to open it up, and that will give you a folder that looks like this right here. And then I just took the the zip file and I threw it inside, so yeah, you can delete it or whatever you want to do. But once you open it up, inside this is your executable for your application, McEdit. You're going to double click on that. Make sure your game is not running when you do this, and make backups of your world saves and everything else, because this piece of software right here, guys, is very, very powerful. It can crash your computer, it can wreck and destroy your worlds, and once you save it, it is unrecoverable. So take those precautions into account before messing with this software. You've been warned. Also, to know the limitations of your computer. A lot of things within McEdit will show you that you can do it, but as soon as you hit render it out or save it, it will be way too much for your computer to handle. Remember, this is a pretty complex piece of software, and it crunches a lot of numbers. So the more area that you try to edit, the more demand it will ask of your computer. So if you have a lower end computer, you're going to have to make small adjustments. But anyways, once it starts up, this is what it should look like. If for some reason it does not start up and you get a white screen or it does not respond, close it out and go to your Minecraft and open up your game, and then go to your texture packs and set it to default. McEdit does not like to play well with some texture packs. It works fine with the ones that I use, so everything is fine. But once you open it up, this is what you'll have right here. This is your start screen. McEdit tells you what bit it is, and there's some shit over here that you can go through and set your graphics up. Again, if you have a slower computer, you'll have to adjust some of your settings here. And load a world, open a level, and then you'll have some down here. After you've used it a couple times, your worlds will start to load down here. So the first time you open it up, you probably won't see any of your worlds. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to load world, and that will bring up all the ones that are inside your .minecraft saves folder. And I'm going to be working in my new world BIB. This is just basically a stripped down version of my BIB world that I do tutorials in. So you can either load it or you can open a level. If you open a level, you'll go to your app data roaming.minecraft saves, and you'll find the world that you want. Here it is, new world BIB, and you're just going to click on level dat and then click open. It does the exact same thing as loading a world. So we'll just go ahead and click load. Alright, once you're inside, you will see your world, the last place that you logged out at, and I'll go over some of the things around the outside of the GUI. This is the McEdit icon here in the corner, left click, and this will give you several different options within McEdit. You can again open another world and jump to a different one. You can load a world, again brings up the same thing from the main screen. You can save it, reload it, close it, go to world info, undo, and view distance and all that good stuff, and again click on it to close that out. Your view distance, you can set this up to, again, your computer speed. If it seems real laggy, just go ahead and bump that down a little bit. Right here is the show option. You'll probably want to uncheck a lot of these things just because you don't need to have entities showing up where all the cows and the mobs and shit are. Items that have been dropped on the ground, you don't need those, and some of these other things. I do, however, leave the sky turned on because it shows a grid for max height, and that is very important, especially if you're putting in any kind of schematics with like airplanes or anything like that. If you put it above the max limit, it will cut it off. Fog, you don't need that shit, and of course the ceiling that corresponds with the sky. And then chunk redraw, that just shows the edges of your map where the chunks have not been rendered out yet. And then you have chunk view. Now chunk view is good for setting up a server or something like that. You get an overhead view of the map that you have loaded up, and you can scroll in when you with your mouse wheel, and you can see exactly where you're at. And we'll go over this just a little bit more later on, but most of the time you're going to be using a camera view. And then make sure you have record undo. That way if you fuck up you can go backwards. Now down here across the bottom you'll have several different tools. The first one is your select, and as you can see I've got a white box on the screen. This is how you select your objects, and these other ones will light up as you select objects, and we'll go over those a little bit at a time. You have an import button here, and this will automatically pull up a folder that is created in my documents called McEdit schematics. This is where all your schematics will be saved. Schematic is a blueprint, guys. Basically anything in Minecraft can be made into a blueprint and shared with others. And a lot of you probably already know that, but some of you don't. You can move your players, and you just pick from the side. You'll have a player and then another player, but usually the first one is the one you want to do. You can move them, you can go to that player, and some other things. And again, we'll go over that a little bit later on. You can move your spawn point, and we'll do that later too. And then your chunk control. This here is basically, again, for servers and stuff like that. If you want to control a certain chunk, if you have a chunk in Minecraft that did not load right, and you keep every time you get to that spot in Minecraft it crashes, load it up in McEdit, and you can do a chunk control repop on it and fix that. And again, I'll try to remember to cover that later. Alright, so now that we know the basics, now we want to know how to move. So as you can see, I'm moving the mouse, but I want to turn around and see what I'm doing. So if you right click and hold the mouse button, the white box comes up to the screen, and then you can move your mouse left and right, up and down, and look around. Now to actually move the camera view, it's WASD and Q and Z. Q is up, Z is down, and there is a little bit of a learning curve to learn how to fly around in McEdit. So it'll take you just a little bit to get used to it. You know, I want to face the ground, and I'm going to hit S and back up. That way I can get way up in the skies, or I can just hit Q and go straight up. There's a couple different ways that you can do it, and I'm still holding the right mouse button down so that I can look around my world and figure out what I want to do. This is my test area, so this is where we're going to be doing a little bit of fucking around with McEdit. So I let off on the right mouse button, and I'm locked into this camera view, and I'm going to place this white block over the sections that I want to do any kind of editing to. So as you can see, I can cover up on certain levels. Anything below this level will have to be selected a different way. You can actually go beneath the ground and select things, but if you're in a stone area where there's nothing to actually grab a hold of, you can't make a selection. So if we go down in here to another empty area below the ground, I can select these blocks and stuff down here, but anything in between ores and stuff can't actually be individually selected. Anything in a water selection, it's going to automatically default to the main surface or the ice that's on the surface, and if you need to get anything under the surface, you'll actually have to fly under it to select any of the blocks underneath the water. So that's how you make main selections in your world. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do some simple editing, and I'm going to turn this area back to a solid area. So I've got a mess over here from one of my other tutorials. I've got a house here, and as you can see, this block defaults to whatever level that you're on. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click over here and select this area. Now you'll have a blue block and a yellow block. Again, depending on how you select this and which way that you're facing this, you'll have corresponding buttons down here to nudge. Now your nudge sets up for your selection to move this left, right, up or down, and readjust your selection without actually deselecting it and trying to reselect it. So the yellow block is on the left here this time, facing it, and if we left click and hold the nudge button and do the A button, I can move it to the left. And if I keep holding on my mouse button and do it to the right, it goes right. If I do south, or S, it will go towards us. And if I do W, it will go away from us. Now to get these other sides, the blue controls that. Again, left click on that, and W, A, S, and D. And then again for your height is Q, and Z. So that's how you do your adjustment. And as you can see, there's a transparent line right here underneath the surface that we just chose. So this selection covers everything on this particular level. So if I delete this, this is all I'm going to get. Or if I fill this in, this is all I'm going to get. Because what we want to do is, for this particular instance, is I want to get this area down here filled in too. So we're going to do a nudge, and we're going to do Z down. And as you can see, it's blue as I'm moving it down. Once it goes beneath that bottom surface that is no longer covered, I still got one more left, and now it disappears. So now I know I have that level down here selected. And then I want to go ahead and get rid of this top thing too, so you can left click on it and pull it up, and you can select it that way, or you can select one of the walls, or you can go underneath and you can pull your bottom down and select it that way. And again, depending on which way that you are facing, this will depend on your WASD controls. So now that I'm facing this way and the yellow block is over here, the D still goes to the right, but it's how I'm facing in the camera view. Alright, so hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And again, like I said, there is a learning curve to get used to these controls. There are some more nudge buttons over here. That is for a forced move. So once you have a selection made, you can actually nudge the whole selection, either left, right, up, or down. But when it does, it moves all the air blocks and everything with it, so it will leave big gaps behind it. And I'll go over that here in just a minute. But I did want to mention that there are some nudge buttons up here. But for right now, is what we're going to do is we're going to delete this selection. So you delete blocks, and you'll see a quick red flash across the screen, and that just shows you that your computer thought about it and made the calculations and everything is finished. So that again will depend on your computer speed, how fast that will happen. So as you can see, we have a hole in the ground now, and that is fine. We're going to replace that. So I want to bump this back down. I'm just grabbing the top of it with the left mouse button, or again, you can use your nudge buttons, and I want to fill this hole back in with sand. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to some of these other options, which is the fourth one in is fill and replace. It looks like a little wheel and a paint bucket. This is a very, very useful one. This is one that you'll probably be using most of the time. When you left click on it, you'll have a search button up here at the top, and it will give you some of the most common ones that are usually used. But you can search either by name or item tag. So like 35 would be wool, 4 would be cobblestone, whatever you want to fill this with. We're going to fill it back in with sand. So you can either type in sand, and there's different sandstone, decorative, smooth, everything that has the word sand in it will come up. Or we can just use sand itself, click OK, and as what we're going to do is we're going to fill this. Now there is a replace option too, and I'll go over that here in just a minute. So we're going to click fill, and again you'll see a quick snap of red, and again that will depend on your computer speed and also the area that you have selected. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, do not do very, very large areas or you will probably lock your computer up. So anyways, now we want to deselect this so that we can get our control back again, and we can do whatever we need. At this point, nothing in the world is actually saved. You have not done any damage to your world yet. This is more of a preview. When you're done, you will click the save button and it will be permanent. So at this point, we can still back up. We can undo by doing a Control Z, and that goes back and shows us that the last thing that we did was unselect that region. We do Control Z again, and that brings us back to the hole. Do a Control Z again, and that's the last movement of the selection, and we can just Control Z one more time and the house is back. If you get far enough in and you can't back up far enough, you have the option to completely reload the world. It will ask you, do you want to save any of the saves? You're obviously probably at that point going to do not save, and it will reload the world back to where we just started this video at. But I'm going to cancel that for now because that's not what I want to do. I want to show you guys how to do some more shit here. So we're going to copy this house. I'm going to left click this block here. I'm going to grab the roof and pull up on it, and of course I've got a floor to this, so I'm going to nudge down, and we're going to make a copy of this. So we're going to copy, and up here is where your schematics are saved. For right now, it's saved right here. It's not actually saved in your documents folder until you click the save button. But when it's in this position here, you can actually carry this over into other worlds. So if right now I want to jump to another world, I can load up a world, and carry this over into it, and that will still be there, but I'm not going to do that because I want to stay in this world. If you want to save this as a schematic, you will just click the save button, and by default My Documents McEdit Schematics will come up. You're going to give it a name and then save it, and it will be saved as a schematic file. So next time that you want to open this little house or whatever your schematic is, you'll go to the import button and you will pick your schematic and we'll drop it in. And we're going to drop a schematic in here in just a minute. Now there's other things that you can do once it's selected or once it's up here. I can deselect this and make some other changes around the world, but maybe I don't want to save the schematic, but I want to use this as a cloning tool of some sort. So I can always just left click up here and pull this in at any time and then just click import. Or also too, if you don't want that, just Control Z. We can bring this in, place it wherever we want. Remember, you have a nudge key over here now too, and this works the same way. WASD, Q, and Z to place it wherever you want. Your schematics have air blocks. They have water blocks and then all the other blocks within this schematic. So when you copy this in, you'll have several different options over here of what you want to have copied with this schematic. If you copy in the air blocks around it, if I push this down into the ground and click import, that copied all of the air blocks around this. So as you can see, there's air pockets around that schematic. So I'm going to Control Z and I'm going to bring that back out, and we're going to set it back down again so I can uncheck copy air in certain situations that I don't want this house to actually eat anything away. So if I want to put it right next to these trees, and it has to be very specific, but I really like those trees, but I want my house next to it, and as you can see, this the green outline of the schematic is actually eating into the trees. But if I don't copy the air, it won't touch anything around it. But anything underneath too, if you have this pushed down on the ground, it won't eat that away either. So your house will be full of sand if I put this down too far. So we're just going to import that, and as you can see, the trees are untouched and the ground is untouched. Schematics like boats, ships, or anything that has water in it, you'll have the option there also to import water. And remember too that there are air blocks. So if you have a schematic of a ship and you want to place it on the water, and we're going to do the house as an example, it automatically, remember, defaults to the main surface. So at this point, if this schematic of the ship does not have water around it, when you nudge this down under water to set it at water level and you click don't click copy air, you're going to flood the schematic and the whole hole with water. So you're going to want to copy the air, and you're going to import your ship just like this. And I should probably actually use a ship, would be a lot better. Alright, so I've opened up one of my bigger schematics, and as you can see, it's right in my face. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to fly back a little bit and get a bigger aerial view of where I'm trying to put this thing. So I can place it wherever I want, and I'm going to left click and I'm going to place it into the world. So as you can see, this one specifically has water around it, so that when I copy this in, the hole is already empty because this is a pre-made schematic with all the water already drained out of the hole, and the water is there to replace the blocks around it. So at this point, you can move this around again by WASD. You have options up here. You can rotate it, roll it, flip it, or mirror it. E is the most common one you'll probably use, and that rotates it different directions to place it here where you need it. So we're going to move this down into this area here, but one block at a time just isn't getting it. So if I left click nudge and hold the shift key and now do a WASD, I can get the schematic to move a lot further with just one click of the keyboard. So this is where we're going to put our ship at right here. So when you're importing your ship, I always get down to water level so I can get a real good eyeball of what's going on here, and this water level is going to be down to the surface. So we're going to nudge this down with a Z until it's flat right here, and sometimes your schematic will show up, sometimes it'll render out, sometimes it won't. It takes a little bit. It'll depend on your FPS up here and what all you're doing, but what you're trying to do is concentrate on this water level being level with the other one. So as you can see, I'm one block above, and now I'm right at the level of the water. So once I have the schematic where I have it and where I want it, make sure that copy water is selected, and you will click import. that will import all the water, all the blocks, all the air blocks and everything, and your ship will be perfectly placed in the water and nothing will be missing. Now, unless your schematic goes pretty deep, you will probably eat out some of the bottom of the ocean or the river or wherever you're putting your boat, but who gives a shit about that anyways? So alright, so if we have a schematic that does not have water around it, how do we get it in the water and get water around it without flooding the hole? So what we're going to do is we're going to import another ship. Alright, so now I've got the same schematic, and this one here does not have water around it, and it's pretty easy to see because I can see everything on the bottom very, very clearly. So what we're going to do is we're going to nudge this into position, and I'm just WAS and all that good shit to get this where I want it. And I'm not going to be real precise with this tutorial. I just want to get this thing down in the water. So again, we get down here to water level, and I'm going to nudge this down, Z, and I'm going to put it in the water right there. Looks like it should fit good. And again, we want to make sure that we copy the air, because if we don't copy the air, the water will flood the hole. So we're going to import that. And as you can see, it cut out all the way around it, and we need to get this water back in. So how do we do that, Jag? How do we get water back around this? We're going to deselect the object, and we're going to select the water surface. So what you do down here in this pit is you're going to grab the bottom block here, and then we're going to fly over to the opposite corner of the schematic, and we're going to pick the top block on the water over here and get positioned here so you can see what I'm picking. This corner block right here. So I've just selected this entire surface from from the top to the bottom. Basically, just make sure you select the entire area that you want covered with water. Now at this point, you would think you could probably do a fill and replace and just fill it with water. Well, if you do that, that's going to completely eradicate the bottom of the ship. So there's what we have is called a filter button. Now the filter button, you have a classic water flood. This is very, very computer resource intensive, and this can take a long time to do, to calculate the blocks if you have a slow computer. This isn't too bad on mine, so you can flood this with water or you can flood it with lava. Of course, I don't know why you want to flood it with lava unless you want to burn some shit up and you're a destructive little bastard. But anyways, we're going to flood this with water, and we're going to click filter. And when we click filter, you're going to have this pop up. As what this is. Again, you're not making a permanent change to your world right yet until you save this. Your computer is making the calculations that it needs to figure out all these water blocks to wrap around the solid structure that is in the water and not fill it with water. And you'll see it'll say time left 2 days, 8 days, 9 days, 15 days, 6 weeks, or whatever, again, depending on your computer. Just ignore this. If you've got a slow computer, go take a break and come back, and by the time you're done, this should be done calculating it. Again, the bigger the ship, the bigger area of water, the longer this is going to take. A schematic this size on my computer is usually going to take about 30 to 45 seconds, maybe a minute at the most. Alright, when it's done, you'll see a big flash of red like you just saw right there, and we're going to go to the select button, and I'm going to deselect it so I can show you that it did work. And this placed water all the way around it, and also there is none in the hole, so the hole is water free. So as you can see, it is best to try to get a schematic that already has water around it because it is less resource intensive. You can drop it in, your computer can figure it out because all the blocks are already there, and it doesn't have to try to figure out all the calculations to make this thing work. And again, at this point, this is still non-destructive. We have not done anything to this world yet that we can't undo or just start over. But you have a backup, right? So let's not worry about it. All right, so that's how we get in boats. That's how we work with water. That's how we make selections. Let's go over a couple other things. We have a brush tool. All right, your brush tool is, again, a pretty powerful tool, and it will make 3 different modes. You have or brushes. You have a round, a square, and then also a diamond. Now, a diamond is, when you adjust this here, you'll see what it is, but we're going to start with the round, and this is how you make big domes and big circles. You'll probably always want to make it hollow, so make sure that that is clicked. The chance, always make sure that is at 100. I'm not exactly sure what that is. The chance that it's going to make it perfect, I don't know. You have a length, width, and a height, obviously, so if you want to make a perfect 31 circle, I'm just scrolling up right now with my mouse wheel, and we're going to do a 31 dome. Now as you can see, part of it is buried in the ground because underneath where my mouse is, the selection block is still there. So as I move this, it's still selecting the block underneath on the main surface. So it's positioning this dome to the main surfaces. As you can see, here's the mountain, so I'm going up the mountain now with the mouse selector. And so you're like, well, how do I move it? How do I get it where I want it? We'll scroll up with the mouse wheel and move it up and down. And the easiest way to do it is to put it way up in the air and then reselect it, make a schematic of it up in the right hand corner, and then delete the big circle and then put it wherever you want it. So in short terms, this is how we're going to do it. This is your material over here. Most of the time you're going to want to do these out of glass, but you probably want to make it out of stone first, and I'm going to show you why, because it'll be easier to see. So we're going to just make sure that that's clicked, and let's do a little bit smaller one so we have an easier one to work with. Let's do a 15 by 15 and by 15. Alright, so that's a perfect little dome, and we're going to left click the mouse button, see a quick flash of red light, and now we have a dome on the screen. And you can click this as many times as you want and put domes all over the place. We're going to go to the select button, and we're going to go down here and we're going to select this dome because this is not where we want it, and we don't actually want a full sphere. We want a dome. We want a, you know, for our Atlantis, whatever the hell we're making. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this dome, and again, depending on your size, you're going to want to find probably the halfway point between here or down here at the very bottom right before the object starts to change. And we're going to grab that, and then we're going to grab down to the bottom just like this. And again, this is kind of, you know, a little, not really advanced, but you know, once it's going to take you a little time to get used to moving you know, moving around in McEdit and getting things selected. So all we're going to do is we're just going to rip the bottom off this bitch, delete the blocks, deselect it real quick so you can see that I've got my dome the way that I want it. And now I'm going to Control Z and go back to the selection, pull it back up, and I'm up in the air, so I don't have to worry about getting this blue block all the way up to the bottom. But if you did want to, again, just use your Q. Up too far. Now we have this selected. Now I want to turn this into glass. So we'll go to fill and replace, and again this works just like this. You put in the material we used was stone, so you put in 1, click OK. That means everything within this selection that is stone, I can either make this whole selection stone, or I can choose just stone. So if there was wood in here or any other objects, this you know, is very specific to this material. Within this material, we're going to replace with glass, which is 20. Click OK. And now let's say we want to swap these. Let's say this dome was already glass and we want to change it back to stone. You would just swap it. So whichever one is first is the material that you're starting with. Whatever material that is on the bottom, that is the one that you're replacing it with. But we want to go from stone to glass. Or let's say we changed our mind, we can click this down here. We don't want it glass, we want to go to something else, or one that we've already used before. We can go back to stone or air, and or we just click on this again and pull up this interface. But we want to do it glass, that's why we picked this, and we're going to click on replace. So it takes all the stone blocks and now it changes them into glass, and you have your perfect glass dome that you can put in the water and for your Atlantis project or whatever, and use the boat part of this tutorial to figure out how to do that. Again, at this point you can cut it. That actually removes it from the screen and again puts it up here just like a copy. Or we can Control Z, let's go back, let's put it back on the screen, and as you see it still left a copy of it up here. Again, it's not saved until you save it. And or we can do what's called a clone by using this button, make the exact same thing and placing it wherever we want it, and you can clone it several different times, or again you can use it from up here and place it in. Either way works just fine. So that covers your cut, copy, and paste for the most part. The other buttons that we have left, let's see, we covered the brush tool. Let's get rid of this thing here first. So we're going to just delete those blocks and deselect it. So that covers all that. Again, we've covered the move the player. So I am actually down here. If I want to jump to this player somewhere on the map, if you're using a server map, you can go to that player and I can jump right to him. I can set my spawn to be right here. And a lot of times it'll say you cannot have 2 air blocks above this position, blah blah blah. Click OK or fix it for me. If you click OK, you'll have to pick a different area. If you click Fix It For Me, usually is what it does is it puts a block right above your head that you'll have to deselect, and I think this is the one that I just put in. So you go ahead and, let's see, Fix It For Me. See that? It puts a block there so that you know where your spawn is at. Now you can delete that if you want to with your selections here. Delete that and take that away. Sometimes, depending on where you set your spawn at, it'll put a block up in the air and you'll have to delete that later on too. So anyways, the last thing is chunk control. Chunk control is kind of a bitch to use. A lot of people want to use McEdit to clear land and change biomes and stuff like that. So if we make a selection over here, and there is a biome selection tool here too, we're gonna go over here to this selection here. We're gonna select this area, and I want to remove these trees and remove the snow. So let's work on that first. So we're going to go to Fill and Replace, and we're going to type in snow, and there's snow layer and snow. Usually snow layer is probably what I want, and we're going to replace that with air, which is 0. Click OK, click Replace. That strips all the snow off, and now I want all these trees gone. So these are the pine trees or the spruces. So we're going to go to Fill and Replace, and we're going to put in tree, or whoops, not tree, dumbass. We're going to put in wood, and we're going to pick the pine wood. Now, if you don't know what is inside of this area, you can always do an analyze, which if we go back to the selection tool and click analyze, this will tell us everything that is in there: the air blocks, stone blocks, grass, sand, water, all the ores, everything within this selection. So if you're not exactly sure what you're trying to get rid of here, or the number, or whatever the hell it is, you can do an analyze on it and then write these numbers down, and you can use these ID numbers to specifically get rid of the leaves. The pine leaves are 18.1, the pine wood is 17.1. So that's what we're going to be getting rid of. So we're going to have this selected, go to our 4, we're going to put in 17.1. That is our pine wood. We're going to click OK. We're going to replace that with air. Click OK and enter. And all the tree stumps are gone. Now we're going to get rid of the leaves, 18.1. Click OK, replace, air, OK, replace. And that strips all the trees from that area, all the snow from that area. But this is still a biome. This is still a taiga, and snow will come back, but at least your trees are gone. To permanently get rid of this and change this biome, you can do it here in McEdit. I do, however, recommend using World Painter, or World Painter, and you can specifically grab just this area and change it over to a desert. But if you want to do it in McEdit and you don't care that it's a square selection and you get a little bit of this over here, you can go ahead and make your selection. Again, don't worry about getting all the way up and all the way down. When you do a filter option, it is going to do that for you. You're going to click on here, you're going to go to your set biome, and we're going to want to make this a desert, but you can click here and make it whatever you want, but we're going to change this to a desert, and we're going to click filter. It means everything now inside the selection has been changed to a desert. So when you go back in game, if we can change this over to let's do a fill and replace. We can do 2 grass, and we're going to change all the grass over to sand. Whoops. Fill and replace, grass, replace, sand, and there, we just got rid of that whole area in the desert that we want to turn into desert. And again, if you want to select the bushes and the tall grass and get rid of those, you could do that too. That's up to you. That's however specific you want to be. So now when you go back in game, it will not snow right here in this section. It will not rain here in this section because it is the desert. And because we did a little bit over, we'll get the same effect over here. We did not remove any of the ice, so the ice still will remain in this this desert area. So we can go ahead and select that, nudge down, and click ice, ICE, and we're going to replace that with, now you can pick 9 water. There's another one which is 8 water that is active. That's not the one you want. You want the 9. So just put in 9, click OK. We're going to do an ice to water swap, or replace. Click replace, deselect, and all your ice is gone, except for one that I did not get. OCD. So we got one block, we can just go 4, 9, and just turn that into water. So now when you go back into world, that whole biome has been changed. Alright, so that pretty much covers everything except chunk control. Chunk control, this is kind of a dangerous tool. You want to be careful with this. So if we go back to that selection that we had over here, and we reselect this area, and let's say this is a bad chunk, or we want to repopulate this chunk. So we just change this over to a forest biome. We don't have any trees, we don't have any of that shit. McEdit can do a repopulation on this chunk. So if we go to chunk control, as you can see, it picks all the chunks, and it's not as specific as the selection tool. You have to go by the exact chunks, so you're going to run over into areas that you probably don't want. So it's like I said, it's kind of a pain in the ass to get this to do this exactly what you want. But at this point, you can do several different things over here that I'm not going to go over all of them. One of them is a relight. If you have a shadowing issue or a light glitch issue in your Minecraft world, you can relight it by left clicking it. You can extract certain things. This is your repopulation here. Depending on what biome this is, when you click repop, nothing happens, but when you save it and you go back in game, when it starts to render it out, there'll be trees here, or whatever biome that you set that to specifically will be in this chunk control. Now if this is a little hard to see, this is where you want to go to chunk view, and you can scroll in. This is as far as we can go, and you can select your various areas again by left clicking and holding the mouse button, and as you can see, I'm adding more and more areas to it by left clicking and adding. So you can be pretty specific here, but you're still getting a square line from McEdit. If you're going to do any kind of biome changing, do it in Biome Painter. That way you can do it very, very specifically to the outline and make it look good. If you don't give a shit, I don't give a shit. You just go ahead and fill that in. So at this point, everything in the game, McEdit is done the way we want it. We are finished. So now we're going to save it. You can either do a Control S, which Control and S at the same time on the keyboard, or you can McEdit up at the top and click Save. I am not going to save it because I don't want to save all this shit. So once you click Save, again, depending on how much shit that you have done, it will take a while. You'll see that little thing on the screen that we did when we did the boat, and it could take a little while. Come back and you'll see a flash of red, and everything will be saved. Open up your Minecraft world and everything should be hunky fucking dory. If it's not, delete it and put your save, because you did save your world, right? And put it back, and you can start all over again. So that is my long ass world edit or McEdit tutorial guide. I hope you've enjoyed it. I think I've gone over just about everything that I can possibly think of right now for this tutorial. I'm sure I have probably missed something in the filter tools. Some of them do not work, like the smooth filter. If you want to smooth this out and you select it and try to smooth it down, that doesn't work. One that I did forget, if you want to make this mountain grass, I did forget this one. This is a pretty good one here. The filter, I want to do topsoil on that, set it to 1, and I want to cover this with grass. So basically I'm masking it and I'm just painting over top of it, and I have a nice green mountain. And as you can see, it only did the top block. That's why I set it to 1. So that's another one that I just remembered as I was getting ready to close this out. That is my McEdit tutorial, guys, in full detail, as much as I can think of. I hope you enjoy it. Be very, very, very careful with this tool. If you fuck your world up, please don't tell me about it, because I told you so. Be careful, enjoy, have fun, and like always, I appreciate you watching. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.